Are you able to share your screen at all?
Yeah, I should be able. Let me go ahead and
All right. Not that you need to. I just want to check before we start.
Can you see that okay?
Yep, looks good. All right, we'll get started in about a minute, folks. It looks like we have about 20 participants online. We have close to 90 registered, so probably have a bunch jump in here at noon exactly. If you don't know me, my name is Gary Brand. I'm the Executive Director of ETOM, Education Technology Organization of Michigan. And we do these virtual workshops or meetups every month. And today our workshop is from the AI lab using ChatGPT to boost productivity. And our guest speaker today is Jonathan Resendez. And I'm not going to do a huge introduction of all the stuff about you, Jonathan, because I want to give you the most time. So I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for being here. We said, we're probably going to keep getting people in, but while we do that, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jonathan Resendez, and I'm a faculty here at GRCC. I teach a lot of the programming classes. I teach a lot of Python. I teach a lot of Java. I've been here with GRCC probably for the last 4 or 5 years. And I am currently just like everybody else, really getting into AI. I do have some technical training on AI in my master's degree, but just really AI is growing so fast that everybody, I feel, is in the same boat of getting new content on a daily basis. So really happy to be here. I have a presentation for you that should be interactive. And I'll go ahead and share my screen with you, and then we'll go from there. So the title of the presentation is How to Boost Your Productivity with ChatGPT. So I'll be kind of like giving you some kind of like ideas on how to use the tool to your benefit. So before we start, I want to show you a little bit of the space that we have over here. So this is our AI incubator, and we have one of our deans here at GRCC, Julie Parks, created a grant with Intel, and Intel basically supported 15 community colleges, and now it has expanded. But the partnership that we created with Intel was the ability for us to get units to make this lab, and I'll show you the lab in just a little bit. So we have 15 really powerful AI-ready units that is part of the grant, and you'll see them in just a little bit. Intel also gave us curriculum. We have been given basically 5 or 6 courses ready-made to deployed, and Intel has also given us training to us faculty members. And I believe Intel currently has this partnership open to not just the people from the grant, but I think they're actively looking for more partners. So if you would like more information on this idea of the curriculum with AI, let me know and I can put you in contact with them. So let me show you really quickly here our lab. So our lab is, I'm going to switch my camera. So our lab is a virtual lab. As you can tell, I'm going to walk around. We have a camera, and you should still be able to hear me okay. This room is meant for us to have people learning from home and also having people here in this location here at GRCC. So I'm going to walk a little bit more. This room was put together by our wonderful staff in media. So we have a microphone set up at the top. We have a camera that's following me. You are not seeing it, but we have a monitor in the back. And then if I keep walking more towards this area, you're going to see the units that we have here. So these are going to be the units that are around. And you can see kind of like in the picture how they're laid out. Again, our Dean of STEM has been helping us a lot to get this lab set up. And there are, like I said, around 15 of these labs in the US. And the biggest one is in Arizona, where Intel is based. And I was just there 2 weeks ago, where they have a little bit more units. They have, I think, 25. But the point of these machines is that they are much faster and they are more set up to do AI. So if you were to do something with your typical laptop, if you're trying to train a model, if you're trying to do some kind of like heavy computation, it will take you, I don't know, half of the time using the machines that you see here. So let me go back and go ahead and share again into my content. But yeah, if you have any questions about that, let me know and I can give you more information. So again, really quickly, let me switch my camera. So we have a lot of cameras. Okay, so again, with the help from Intel and the curriculum, we're gonna set up an AI certificate that will basically have 5 courses. We have an Intro to AI that it's gonna be at Gen Ed. We're hoping to have people that are interested in AI take this course. But if they really like the course, then the certificate will go into 4 different courses. So we have a machine learning class, we have a natural language processing or NLP class, and we have a computer vision class. And then finally, everything is going to get wrapped up with our capstone project. So overall, that's kind of like the setting that I have here. And as you can tell from the lab, our hope is that we'll have people that are maybe within this area of Grand Rapids to be able to learn about AI, use the tools, get the certificate. I do think like a lot of the opportunity is from people that are already have a job, already are in in a setting, in an employment setting, and they can retool, they can get these techniques to then use them in their current placement to generate ideas, to generate productivity, like we're gonna do today. Okay, I do wanna really quickly, before I jump into the presentation, talk a little about the elephant in the room. And that is, of course, the fears that we have around AI. And I don't really want to dismiss them. You'll probably see me or hear me talking very positive about AI, but I do know that we have fears around the technology. And I really want to quickly give you an idea of pessimism versus optimism. I do think it's hard for us with the technology to see far in advance on what the technology could do. And we concentrate really quickly on the pessimistic views because they're really easy to generate, they're really easy to come up, whether an optimistic view could take a little bit more time to create. So I want to show you really quickly a little bit of headlines, and then we'll get some interaction from you. So I want to bring you the example of Japan after World War II. So Japan was devastated by the war. Their industry was destroyed. And, you know, if you think about what could be the headline that media in Japan could have had after World War II, it could be easily pessimistic based on the situation that they had. But again, trying to come up with an optimistic view, it's almost counterintuitive because it's just so radical. So if you think about Japan today, they have growth their GDP 15 times over from World War II. They have their life expectancy has doubled after the war. And of course, they are a leader in tech. And right now they have an economy that's booming. And I think this example is kind of like the idea of how difficult it is to imagine what the technology could do, particularly in AI, in the next 20, 30 years. So I want to get a little bit of your input. So I want you to think about AI headlines that we currently have. And what I want you to do is, like, you can get your reactions with your hand up, or if you have camera, you can turn them on. But raise your hand if you have a pessimistic headline of AI. So don't tell me the headline, but just raise your hand or put your hand up, and let me see if you have something that might be pessimistic, something that you heard in the news that is not going to be real nice for us. Or and I'm going to just quickly let me see if you could put your hand up just so that other people can see in the chat. So I see Greg putting their hands up, Amy, maybe other people here. Dave, yep. So like I said, I don't, Jonathan, we have, who else? Aaron. So you probably can start thinking about a lot of those negative headlines, but I don't want to concentrate on that. I want to go on the optimistic side. So maybe if you don't mind sharing, people that maybe have a positive headline or an optimistic headline, if you could share, what do you think AI could do for us in a positive way in the next 5-10 years? And make sure that you unmute yourselves.
I don't know if I can talk.
Yeah, we can hear you, Greg.
Okay, I was just thinking about recreating historical or literary events with AI.
Right.
Just sort of bringing them to life more.
Yep. I was talking to somebody the other day. They were trying to teach a class using the idea of Nobel laureates, particularly now that we have the situation in Israel and Gaza. And with AI, you can actually feed somebody's like a Nobel laureate speeches, and then have almost like a, what would they say if they were still alive, or what would they say now? And AI will generate those ideas based on the corpus of their current or their previous work, and will give you ideas of past Nobel laureates on ideas on how to solve or how to approach the situation that we have in the Middle East. Anybody else? Another positive, optimistic view?
I think that it could possibly also help with diverse learners meeting their needs. Accommodating more of, especially their English language needs, possibly. Those that need modifications, possibly help them with that. I know within means, but there are some optimistic processes that we could implement for or with AI.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we definitely see that customizing learning, I think, will be a great feature that we can start deploying. I know David has a view he put on the text. David said, I don't have a bad view of AI. I think it'll be amazing and it will save lives. Okay, maybe one more, perhaps, and if not, we'll probably move on.
I would say from a business perspective, for business owners, it would be possibly a better way for them to come up with marketing and advertising campaigns. So in the classroom, if we could teach responsible ways to create like a marketing campaign or a business campaign using AI, then businesses can hire students who have, or recent grads who have that skill set for a fraction of the cost that it would be to hire an ad agency, if you will.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Thank you for that example. I think that's exactly a great use of AI, and our last example will probably use a little bit of that, and I'll show you a little bit on how to do that with chain prompt. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy that people have a lot of positive views on this. Okay, so this is supposed to be a hands-on presentation, so we'll go ahead and do that. So if you don't mind, well, let me see. I want to ask. Well, let's go ahead and get it going, and then I'll ask. So if you could get your ChatGPT open, if you don't have it yet, you will just make an account really quickly right now. All you'll have to do is Google, try ChatGPT. That first link in Google should be the OpenAI link. And if you click on sign up, it will allow you to get into ChatGPT, and I will use your Google credentials for you to make the sign up process really much faster. And that's only if you haven't made an account. If you already have, then you can just go ahead and log in. And I think also for this, you could, I'm gonna clear the board over here. And if you could raise your hand as well, and then show me if you have used ChatGPT before. That'll give me a good baseline of how fast or slow to move on the content. So if you could raise your hand if you have used it before, if you already have an account, if you are actively using it, thumbs up, hands up, clap. All of that will help me. And then so we have 46 people in the call. It looks like we had about 12 to 15 that raised their hand. So 12 to 15 people have used it before. Okay. So yeah, let's go from there, and we'll go ahead and while people are opening AI, opening ChatGPT, we'll go ahead and use it. So let's give you a brief history of what ChatGPT is. So it was created by OpenAI, which is a consortium. And it's basically a large language model, an LLM. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But ChatGPT and other LLMs just are able to understand natural language, and they're able to respond to the language using, math models, but pretty much statistics. So when you think about how ChatGPT works, is you provide it with a word, and then it's going to see what is the probability of what will the next word will be. And then out of those possibilities, it'll give you that word with the highest probability. And really that's all it's doing, is guessing statistically what will be the most correct way to use the next word at the same time. It grabs that word and then it fits it again to itself to find the probability of, given those 2 or 3 words that he has gathered, what will be the next word that he could pick. And really that's all it's doing. It's really not conscious. It feels like it is because the model that they used to train ChatGPT was using the internet text. So it has a lot of like the way that we sound and a lot of we speak, because statistically it's just looking at what will people say if they were on in the internet. So that's why it feels so close to a human talking, but really it's just giving you the probability of what's coming up next. And actually, at the beginning, so OpenAI was working on this LLM, and they really didn't have the ability to make it with a chat, meaning that you go to ask questions. And before they train it to answer questions, so again, this is all training, it was pretty bad at answering questions. It really couldn't answer them. But then they're like, well, people want to use them to ask questions. So they trained the model on this sort of like, if you ask these questions, what will be the answer? And then it learned how to answer questions. And that's why it got so good at feeling like you're talking to a human or having that human interaction. So again, it will answer questions, summarize content, create content, and more. Okay, so I think what I want to do right now is go through some of the ideas that I use it for. We'll do it really quickly on the 3 that you see here, which is teaching ideas. That's a good one for me. Creating letters of recommendation, that should be a good one, I think, for all of you. Creating rubrics. And then I think based on how much or how fast you guys want to go, then I want to then look into the idea of prompt chaining, which I think it is a really powerful way to use ChatGPT. So I'm going to go ahead and open my ChatGPT that I have over here. And as you can see here, you'll see that stuff on the left is kind of like stuff that you have used it before. And again, you can ask questions off the bat. So here's how I use it for teaching. So I was teaching yesterday. I'm teaching a class on machine learning, and I ran into this idea of Gini index. So let me show you what I mean. I ask, what is Gini index? And then it started telling me about this coefficient, how it's basically just a statistical way to, if you think about how Amazon selects things that you like, or how Netflix picks things that you like, they do it based on this idea of Gini index and something that's called SBTs. But anyway, so what I used it then after that was I said, because I was making a video for my students, and I asked ChatGPT, okay, how about if you give me an analogy of Gini index? So I asked them to provide me with an analogy, and let's see how it does here. So yeah, this time it's giving me an idea of having a basket and having like amounts of fruit in it. And what Gini index does is like, it just tells you how homogeneous a group is. So, but you see, I give me an analogy for it. And if you don't like it, then you can ask it, okay, give me another analogy. and then it provide you with another one. And I think this is the one I used, the second one. So this other one gave me the idea of, okay, if you're in a classroom and you're making groups, so you have like your different groups, and then somebody likes math, somebody doesn't. And if you have a group that has a lot of people in it that like math, your Gini index will be a 0 or will be low. And that's what I did. So I ran this idea and then I used that to explain that in the video. And, you know, it could be not only this topic, but it could be, I'm heavy on the math. So for example, you can explain, how do you factor a trinomial with examples? And it's gonna tell you how to do it step by step. But then I think something that's really powerful is to allow you to give you analogies for the content. So give me an analogy. And yeah, so it's gonna, this one is giving me the one about a garden. Don't quite like that, but yesterday it used an analogy of making a cake. How you want to find ingredients and how you separate them. So it was a really good analogy, and this is something that I use it for often. Okay, let me see. Go ahead and do letters of recommendation. So again, if you want to do a letter of recommendation, that's actually really useful as well. So you can ask something like, write up, and usually let me, okay, we actually have a question. Heather, yeah.
Hi. So my first question for you, when you put the what is what was your first question? The Gini index? My first question for you is, why wouldn't you just put that in the Google search bar? And then when it gave the answers, I was like, oh, that's why, because you can ask for an analogy and you don't have all of that extra miscellaneous information. You don't have the advertisements. You don't have people trying to sell you something. It's just quick and easy. Then when you asked for another analogy, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Then when you started to ask the math question, I was like, oh, well, how do you fact check that? How do you know if what you're being taught is actually true? So my question for you now is, how do you fact check that? Because if I put it in the Google search bar, I can say, oh, well, the National Institute of Health is saying this, or the Cleveland Clinic is saying that, or there's strength in numbers because I have 3 reputable websites that are all saying the same thing. So how do you fact check ChatGPT, you personally?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it really has to come down to the idea of how you think about ChatGPT. So the way I think about it is as having a really well-versed intern that is going to be at your disposal. And you can ask the intern to give you research, and you can tell the intern, hey, could you research this for me? And then the researcher is gonna come and give you some information. But it is definitely gonna have to be on you to make sure that the information that you see there is not taken as true all the time or as a fact. Let me just say it that way. Because if you go back to the explanation that I gave, really what ChatGPT is doing is just saying, okay, based on the prompt that you gave me, what is the probability that the next word that I give is the most appropriate word? And what that is going to be telling you is that it could be the point that is not true, and that is just probabilistically picking something that is not correct. So it's going to be on the user to make sure that the information that you use, that you somehow check it. So for example, the idea of the Gini index, I know what the Gini index was. I know how to interpret that information. I know how to factor a trinomial. So when I ask ChatGPT, okay, give me ideas on how to perform something, I know what is true and what not, and then you can, as a human, either use the information or move on to another example. So if you look at the example of the Gini index, so it first gave me the idea of a basket of fruits. I was like, well, my students are not going to be able to use that information. They probably don't eat fruits, or I'm going to move on to something else. So then I asked for another one. Then I was like, oh, this one they'll be able to use because they are they're in a classroom all the time, so they have that idea. And then based on that information, then I looked at the content and then saw if that was truthful and useful to me. But I had that knowledge within me. So if I were to go and let's say I ask for something that is out of my knowledge base, so maybe something about biology, I don't really know a lot about biology, I will not trust ChatGPT with those answers. So I don't know if that helped answer your question.
So it's not, you don't trust it for things that are outside of your expertise?
I will not. I will be very careful if you are even stuff that is within your expertise. I will definitely make sure that it's making sense, that it is something that that might be truth, that is truthful, and yeah, for sure, I will not trust it with things that it will give me a good idea of something, but I will not trust it just because of how it's just probabilistically trying to get to the best solution. Now, you can, when you make a prompt, you can tell ChatGPT, if you're not sure, tell me. Or if you're not sure, don't give me an answer. Or because ChatGPT has, when it provides you, or LLMs in general, when they give you an answer, they have a level of how confident they are, a confident level of how truthful the information might be. And then you can tell it in words, if you are not feeling confident, if you don't think that this is true, then don't give me an answer, or don't tell me something if you're not really confident about it.
I guess you could say that's almost a positive then, Jonathan, because now it's not so much stealing our content expertise per se. We are still in control of making educated decisions on what works best for our classroom. So that's good to know.
Yeah, and I think that's what it will take time to educate not only us as faculty members, but students. I think students will be the first ones to go into using ChatGPT, and thinking is Google, and thinking is, I mean, even Google is not 100% trustworthy, but thinking that all of the things they're searching in ChatGPT are facts, and they are not.
Right, like they used to think Wikipedia.
Exactly.
And it is not. We had to teach them how to not use and rely upon Wikipedia. So this is good to know, as Gary pointed out in his chat, that we still need to make sure that everything is backed up with research.
Right. Okay, so let me, if I don't know if anybody has something else on this.
Well, I was just going to say that the analogy in the healthcare industry is, a radiologist is going to walk in the morning and the AI is going to say, you have 200 images to look at, but you should look at these 15 first, because these are the ones that we think you're going to really need to spend your time on today. That it's going to be an assistant,
Yeah, I think that's going to be useful to, LLMs are really good at prioritizing and scaffolding and evaluating data. And you'll see in the example that we have in a little bit on chain prompting, that is really good at that. Greg, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself, Greg.
Have you found, in your experiences, have you found errors in using it?
I have not found errors, but I've heard about people that have found errors. And you probably, I don't know if you guys have heard about those cases in the media. I know Gary sent me one. I don't know, Gary, if you want to share that story really quickly.
Sure, yeah, an attorney used it to file a brief in a case. And when he got to court, the court and opposing counsel said, these cases are made up, these quotes aren't real. And the attorney threw himself on the mercy of the court. This was in the New York Times. And he said, I don't know what happened. I asked ChatGPT if these were real cases and real quotes, and ChatGPT told me they were. So I thought that was an interesting one. The other one is I've run prompts where I've asked it to generate a script for a video game, and it came back with, well, there's not enough information to write a script and the characters, and there's so many. I wasn't looking for a script like a video script. I was looking for script like in something to make the process quicker. So it can misinterpret your prompts, or maybe you're not giving a very accurate prompt.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most famous ones that we've seen so far. And that goes back again into the idea, I can't remember who was the person that asked the question of whether or not you will trust it with your content. And I mean, if you think about that case with the lawyer, he's seen so many cases, so many depositions, so many things that have been quoted, but that he was fooled by it, that the examples seem legit, the court cases seem legitimate, and he just presented those ideas as if they were true, right? They existed.
You know, I ask it to give me examples from, I teach film and video production, give me examples from movies where, you might see a certain aesthetic. And sometimes it gives me the right example. Sometimes it's completely left in field, say something from The Godfather that was incorrect or something. And then I tell it that it's telling me the wrong thing. And then I kind of ask it again a little bit later. And I use Google Bard for what I do, but, and it corrects itself. It doesn't give me the same answer again, which is it wasn't really doing that several months ago, but it corrects itself pretty quickly now.
Yeah, I found, and people find this also hard to understand, I think, is like, so you ask it something and it gives you the wrong information. And you're asking, well, I think you're making a mistake. Could you rephrase it, or let me rephrase it, or try it again, or do it from this perspective, and then it'll provide you with the correct answer. And that goes back to the idea of consciousness, right? If you were able to come up with the answer by asking you or prompting you a second time with a different perspective, how come were you not able to produce the correct output from the start? And that is because is not conscious. It doesn't have that idea of, it is just basically statistically what it made sense at that point. You provided more information, then it has more to go by, and then it produced the correct result. Okay, so I think, let me just quickly run through the other two that I have over here so that you guys can see that, and then we'll go into the prompt chaining idea after that. So like I said, you can ask it to do letters of recommendations for you. So you can say, write a letter of recommendation for a student in my computer class that is going to Grand Valley State. And it's quite amazing that it will just generate this. And again, what you should be thinking about is, okay, how can I use this information to jumpstart my letter of recommendation, right? How can you use this information to give you ideas? You can, after this, provide it with more context. So usually when I get asked to do a letter of recommendation, student will provide me with details. So you can feed that to ChatGPT, tell, okay, what is the courses that the student has taken with me, a project that they might have worked on, what major they're trying to go into, and then that will also help you narrow down the letter and make it more, I guess, customized. One other thing that you should probably be aware of is data privacy, right? As we're thinking about, okay, if somebody asks you to do a letter of recommendation, or maybe other kind of letter, if you provide that to ChatGPT and you provide personal information, it's something that you need to be aware that, yes, they do have privacy statements within ChatGPT, and other LLMs have that, but you have to be careful about what you provide them, and making sure that the information that you're not providing, to be on the safe side, is not sensitive and is not going to put the person at risk of disclosing information that could be private. Okay, the other thing I do is I do a rubric, so you can ask it to provide a rubric for I use it for projects really. So let me see, provide me a rubric for a project in my programming class. So it will provide you with a basic rubric. You can see it's coming up there. You can then ask it to have it like as a table. And after it comes up like that, you can see how it's really good at, okay, the functionality is going to be 40 points. The quality of your code will be 30 points. The documentation, and you can see how I provided with a little bit of details about the API integration, and then it just is able to come up with answers like that. Let me see if we'll make it by the rubric. And just by asking that, it will just make the rubric look more like kind of like what we currently do, which shows you the different criteria. And you can change the idea. So you can tell it, okay, add this criteria into it because I want to have this criteria in it, or give functionality only 35 points, and then we'll adjust it. But as you can tell, you can also tell it like, okay, I now have like 4 different, I guess, modifiers. So maybe give me 5, or maybe do it on a scale of 1 to 10. And it will just recreate it and we'll do it for you.
Hey, Jonathan.
Yep.
You're using 3.5 right now. Do you use 4 at all? Terry was asking.
Yeah, no, I haven't used 4. 4 is just an additional cost of, I believe, $20 a month. I don't use 4. 4, it's supposed to, I guess, have the training that they've done. It's more updated with the content from the internet. I think it's from like until 2022 or something like that. So you'll see more content from the internet in 4.0. I think the other benefit is now 3.5, I think, is optimized to be faster. I've seen 4.0 running, and 4.0 will take a little bit longer than 3.5. So 3.5 is optimized to be faster. But I think in general, with the content that you see right now in 3.5 or 4.0, it should be fairly close, I think. Okay, so I think let's go ahead and then go into prompt chaining, which we have a little bit of time left. So here are the elements of a prompt. And again, this idea of prompt, some people call it prompt engineering, prompt chaining, is the idea of a human being able to provide an LLM the correct prompt so that it could give you the answers that you're looking for. So if you think about what we talked about, okay, if I ask it and it doesn't give me the correct answer, the person that is providing the correct prompt will be able to get to the correct answer faster. So a little bit of definitions for the prompt. We have instructions. So what is it that you want the LLM to do? The context. So you can provide the prompt. Give me an answer based on a Nobel laureate. Give me an answer based on a pirate from the 1800s. get yourself in the shoes of a student that's struggling in my class. So all of that will be a context. Then you give it input data. So you give it a set of knowledge, and then how you want the output to be displayed, like we just did with the rubric. I want it in a table. I want it in this format. I want it this other way. Okay. Now, again, you don't need all of those elements to create a good prompt, but all of that, remember, the more information you give to the LLM, the better of an answer you get. So here are a couple of things that you can do with prompts. So you'll be able to summarize. So you see here we have this text, and you can say, explain the sentence above, and it will give you that reduction of the sentence. So you can also modify, like we said, the output. So give me one sentence only, give me a paragraph. So you can tell it how much of a summarizing aspect you can do. And LLMs have a limit of how many words they can process. So that, I think that's another difference with 3.5 and 4.0. So 3.5, I believe, has 32,000 tokens, something like that. So it's only able to manage so much content. So you're limited by that, but it can provide a really good summaries of chapters in books, presentations, research papers, white papers. It's able to do a really good job of summarizing something. It can extract information. So if you're looking for a single, like a needle in a haystack, so you see all this text here, and then you can ask it, okay, tell me what is the LLM that I used in the paragraph about, or which one is the one that's mentioned? And then it will find it and it will tell you the answer from that. So it will be able to extract that information. Questions and answering. So this one is really useful as well. So you can provide the text, and then you can just ask a question, and then it will feel almost like if you're having a conversation. So that's another use. It is really good at giving you text classification. So it's able to tell if a text is neutral, negative, or positive. And I'm sorry, this is the one about the conversation. So you can provide it with a context. You can provide it with a little bit of knowledge, and then you can interact with it as if you were having a conversation with the person based on the context that you give it. It looks like we have a question from Janet.
I'm not sure if you covered this per se, but can you also ask ChatGPT to create multiple choice questions? I'm sure probably, I don't know, but can you do that? The majority of what you're showing are like discussion board questions. Can you do the same for a multiple choice situation?
Sure, yeah. You can provide a whole chapter of your book and tell ChatGPT to give you 10 questions in multiple choice based on the text that you've given.
Now, how do you, when you said give it the whole chapter, you can scan it or something? Because I'm gonna type.
I mean, if you have access to a digital form of your textbook, you can do that. Yep, you can ask, okay, given this information, give me a multiple choice questionnaire with 5 questions, and then, like we said, you can limit that to make sure that there's only 4 questions, or you know how you have those SAT questions that make sure that you have 2 possible answers, or not all of them, or 2 of the above, something like that. So you can modify all of that. Yeah.
Hey, Jonathan, I put a little piece of text in the chat about using it to update my schedule to the next semester. So I just uploaded my schedule and told it the dates for the next semester, and it just spit back a schedule to me very quickly. So I'm getting people asking me about that. You can upload a document. Obviously, you'd want to be concerned about privacy. My schedule doesn't have any private student information in it, but if you upload something looking at copyright or privacy, making sure It's not something you want to get out there.
Okay, so let me then go into this idea. Well, let's quickly talk about, I think we've talked a lot about limitations. The fact that it doesn't really understand what you are describing, is just trying to guess the next correct word. It's not able to make moral judgments, moral decisions. Again, it's limited by the training data that you're giving it. So ChatGPT is trained on internet content. So that is kind of like the baseline for ChatGPT. But if you provide additional information, then you can train ChatGPT to do that. So we here at GRCC, we have a faculty contract. And when ChatGPT just came last year, our contract was, we already had a new contract. So we made a quick app that fed ChatGPT the new contract, and then you were able to use ChatGPT to ask questions, just like we have seen here before, based on that new content of the new contract. So it is limited to what it already knows, but it could come up with good guesses for something that it doesn't know. And again, it's possible for you to have incorrect or misleading information. So let me then tell you this idea of prompt chaining, which is something that I found really useful. I'm going to use this design image here. So this allows you to kind of like come up with great projects or great solutions to problems. And what we have here, like a double diamond shape. If you place yourself here at the beginning of the problem, and in this cover phase, you see how you have those that diamond shape expanding. So that's when you're thinking of having a lot of options. And then as you can see, as the diamond goes into the middle section, then the exploration or the definition or the concentration narrows down the set of ideas. And then you come to a problem definition. You again expand your potential solutions, and then you concentrate on a single solution. So what you will do is you will have ChatGPT go through this phase and feed the model the answers that it's giving you to generate this kind of like double diamond production. So let me show you an example that I did yesterday. And okay, so I think about it's Thanksgiving time. I asked ChatGPT, okay, provide me with 25 ideas for a fun and memorable Thanksgiving dinner theme. So this is the expanding problem, right? So you want to have a great Thanksgiving. You don't want to do the same thing that you've been doing for the last 10 years. So you are going to ask ChatGPT to do this. So it came up with 25 different ideas of something that you want to do. And as you can tell, it is from the most popular one, like a harvest festival, to really, really out there problems like Mr. Dinner Theater. Let's see which other one. Llama Party Potluck. So that's kind of like this phase where you're just exploring what you're seeing. Then I tell ChatGPT, okay, I want you to order them by difficulty level and cost. So it took that content that it gave me, and then it ranked them based on how difficult they could be and how expensive they could be. So again, the least difficult and the least expensive is going to be this Harvest Festival project or theme. Friendsgiving Fiesta is number 3, and so on. And then it just tells you, okay, these are going to be the mid-level and then the higher difficulty. So this is when you are in this refining phase where you are narrowing down your options. So you as a human will be like, okay, so I like all those things, but then let me go ahead and then pick one. So I actually picked the Fiesta de Gracias. So it's like a Thanksgiving Mexican theme. So I said, okay, for this theme, then give me 25 potential dishes that I could make. So we are back into this problem definition phase where we are expanding our ideas. So it gave me 25 different recipes. So gave me turkey tamales, cranberry salsa, pozole, which is really hard to make, and so on. So again, it gave me all of these recipes and I mean, these ideas, and I was like, okay, I want you again to refine them by difficulty level and cost. So you refine them again and tell me, okay, here is the low difficulty, low cost. So guacamole, easy to do, inexpensive, mid-level, making rice, and very difficult, making mole turkey. It's gonna be really hard. So based on that, okay, I picked the turkey tamales. Okay, so now we're here on this idea of refining and finding a solution. So I said, okay, for the tamales, give me a recipe for it and the ingredient so I can go buy them and make them. So it gave me the ingredients, it gave me the instructions on how to make them, it gave me the idea on how to prepare them, and it gave me all the step-by-step. Again, I have personally not made tamales before, but I've seen people make them. So I have an idea that this is more or less correct. So then I asked ChatGPT, okay, how about you give me an itinerary? If I wake up on Thanksgiving Day at 9 a.m. and my party's at 4, give me what is it that I have to do to make sure that I'm ready for it. So it told me, okay, based on this idea, you have to wake up at 9. Okay, so get ready, fuel, start prepping, decorating, and it told me like the times where the recipe should take time, and then for me to get it ready, and I mean for me to have Thanksgiving. So I can think of using this idea for when you're in the classroom. So you want to do a hands-on activity on a class that you've done before, and you want to get new themes, new ideas on how to present this information to students. So you start with the beginning phase. Okay, give me 25 different hands-on activities that I could use to teach this topic. And then out of that, then you define it. And then once you come to the problem definition, okay, now give me specific materials that I could use, and you expand it again, and you come to this. So as you can tell, this chain prompting, it takes time because then, so you're fitting it and you're manually chaining it, right? You're manually putting it together. But this is one of the implementations currently of AI, which people are just making this chaining automatic so that if you have a process that you run all the time, so of course, Thanksgiving is probably not something that we do all the time, but think about teaching, right? If you're gonna teach something every week, you can have this chaining method done for you, and then you just tell ChatGPT, okay, I am gonna teach tomorrow trinomials. Walk me through this chaining so I can provide an awesome lesson for the students and they have great ideas or have a good experience in my class. And that's something I think that people should be using this for. I have a question for Heather, from Heather.
So my question is jumping off of Greg's question in the chat. And I guess my question is for everyone, really. Indeed, ChatGPT can basically do pretty much any assignment for any student. So how then do we as instructors design our projects so that they are using ChatGPT as idea generation and not the final outcome? Do we have to ask for every assignment to be like, it used to be that we had to hand in a paper with our outline, remember, when we were writing everything down before we had typewriters? And so do we have to ask them to hand in their ChatGPT prompts in addition to their final product? And so my question is, I guess, what kinds of things can we do so that we know that they're actually putting some of their heart and soul into their assignments?
Yeah, and I think that is the question that we have to ask ourselves as educators as we go on, as we go forward. I don't really have the answer for it at the current moment, like this is the answer, but what I can tell you, what I will do is, like I said, I teach a lot of programming. You can have ChatGPT give you code instantly. So what I'm thinking about doing is having, for the people that I have in class, of course, have that interaction with them that will allow for me to see them while they do it. But for example, for the people that I have online or things that are asynchronous, for me to have maybe like a video that they make, that they walk me through their code, or have other kinds of checks that have that human interface that is allowing you to make sure that the learning is there or that there's learning happening. But if you set up, I think, your class as everything final deliverable, then you're gonna run into a lot of potential cases of plagiarism and cheating of using ChatGPT straight up to get the solution.
There's some good suggestions in the chat too. I know my wife's an English teacher and she asked students to turn in an outline first so she could try to catch it. And the student just asked ChatGPT to generate the outline. So it's hard to keep up with it. You know, I've had success at just following up the students and meeting with them directly and asking them questions about it. And so far, every one of them has said, yes, this is what I did. And
do a lot of, for example, for my, and again, this could be replicable, but again, if you know a little bit of personality of the student, then it goes a little bit. So I asked a lot of questions in my class, for example, about when I'm teaching something that's called object orientation. So I tell them, okay, tell me about an app that you use on a daily basis that uses the idea of objects, and then how are those objects implemented in that class. So again, it could be done with ChatGPT, but the likelihood that student will not do that because they already using the app, they already like that content, and they just have to make that small transition from something they like to the content that we're seeing. I think that's going to be less likely to do it as if I were to ask in a Blackboard forum, what are the benefits of using object orientation? Because that you can just put on ChatGPT and it will give you an answer right away. And just find ways to make sure that you can get some of that human element from the student to make sure that they're doing.
all right, we have about a minute left. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to cover, Jonathan.
No, that was the end of the presentation. Yes.
Awesome. One question I got in the chat was just, when's the next meetup? They love it, Jonathan. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll have Jonathan come back every month. No. Right now, there's not one planned for December just because it's tough to get folks together with exams and everything, but we will have a full schedule for next semester. Jonathan, I really appreciate getting an opportunity to get hands-on and talk about how we could use it in our teaching and learning. All right, with that, are there any other pressing questions in the 1 minute we have left? Great, thanks everybody. I will send out a recording as well as a survey of our session. Once again, Jonathan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you guys.